Well. If it isn't me with another Minecraft video. Well, today is going to be I don't know if it's a special one, but you know, it's the first like mention the request by person kind of video. The worlds have been deleted, which is great, so we are going to start fresh. But first, quick explanations. This build is going to be of an ice cream cone, if I don't forget to edit in post. You can see the image right now that I'm working off of. And the image quality isn't the best, but you can't always get what you want. I'm working off of this image. You can work off of, you know, the video, as this is a build along. So it should be a little bit easier for you to follow than for me, I guess. However, I've done many hours of building, so it shouldn't be too difficult for me. This is also not the largest build I've ever made, so this should be relatively easy to do. This build was requested by a livestream viewer a while ago. Well, a viewer of live streams, also videos, Bxzarre Gaming. He requested an ice cream cone, and I picked this one, so, you know, if you're still watching or if you come across this video, this one's for you. Also, right before we start and I start to explain a few things about the blocks that are in my inventory, check out Stream of Melodies' channel, because that is the music that we're listening to currently. Some nice copyright-free calm jazz music. I like it, and I hope you do too. So, on the top right-hand screen, you can see an overview. On the general screen, I guess, everything else than the top right, you can see the first-person view. Throw this into the corner on your second screen somewhere, and let's start the build, shall we? So, first off, let me explain some of the blocks. Let me bring back the ice cone image back on screen. All of the darker parts, the outside of the actual cone and the outside of the ice cream, the pink, the dark pink, that is all going to be obsidian. I have always used obsidian as an outline block. You don't necessarily need an outline block, you can just use some kind of red or dark brown for the ice cream cone and just a darker pink for the ice cream. But I personally prefer to, you know, add an outline to at least 99% of my builds. Obsidian I almost never use in the builds on its own. It has a purple hue to it and a little bit of a texture look to it. So oftentimes, especially since they added all of the relatively new blocks, you know, they have been in the game a while, but you know what I mean. There are oftentimes better alternatives than obsidian when it comes to either purple or darkness. So yeah, I don't regularly use it in the build itself, hence why it's a good outline block. For the ice cream cone itself though, I'm using a yellow wool and yellow terracotta. You can see which one is going to be where. The lighter one obviously goes for the lighter part of the cone. Then I am using 4 different colors, or 4 different shades, I should say, of pink. For the ice cream itself, it is pink concrete, pink wool, pink concrete powder, and white concrete powder. I often try to stick with some of the texture as well. It's a little bit of a bonus quest. Doesn't always work out like I maybe wanted to, but it should be relatively close with these blocks. And that is what is going to be like 2/3 of the build. Then for the cherry on top, I'm going to use red concrete. I am also once again going to use the pink concrete for the little bit of the shine on top, as well as some white concrete. I might change this for some snow, the same as the mouth part of the ice cream, the ice cream bear. Maybe I'll change it with snow, but you know, we'll see when we get there. And for the stem, it's also some obsidian for the eyes and nose and stuff as well. So now that we've been through all of the blocks that we are going to be using, unless I change my mind as we build this, I'm going to start. I am not going to explain every single thing that I'm doing. You know, this is not the tutorial you might expect. But I also think that would be extremely boring. I will give some tips as we go though. And also mention things for myself, just like this, that this is 6 times 2 pieces. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That should add up. And then this little one is the end of the ice cream cone. I might go a little bit fast, but, you know, feel free to scroll back a little bit or whatever to see where you have to catch up. Or, you know, don't. You can also look at the top left or top right hand side corner. Hopefully it is clear enough for you to see. You know, go from there. And like I said, I will include some tips. Like I've done in the beginning with the obsidian. This is another tip. As I've completed the cone shape, there are multiple things that you can do from here. You can obviously continue building and pretend like nothing interesting is happening, you know, you're just going along as you would. Or you can make sure that everything that you've done so far is good, it's correct, it fits. You might think, what are you talking about? But if I look at the ice cream cone image, if I pull the line of this block through to the other side, this block should be one lower than over there. So if I go and check this, swoosh over here, it is one lower, exactly where it should be. Now, I might have missed one of these twos, I might have missed one of those blocks, so who knows if the width is correct. Well, don't look any further than the bottom line of the ice cream itself. If you go ahead and do this, you can make sure that everything is where it should be and correct yourself that way. This should be a 5, then this would be a 4, then a 1, and then another 4, and that should connect to this one right there, yes. So, with just this little piece that I built, I could have continued on the left hand side all the way around for the bear shape, get back over here and find out that it doesn't fit. With this little piece over here, I have now confirmed that all of this should be correct. This really helps in bigger builds, but obviously if you're not that experienced yet, or if you're not that sure if you've done something correct, do stuff like this all the time, wherever possible. Check yourself, reference yourself, and everything should be okay. For instance, if this line of 4 would be right over here, that would mean that it is 1 too low. One thing to deduct from this, you don't have to worry about the width of your build, because that's fine, so you don't have to check most of this. You only have to check if you maybe missed a 2 over here, if you done like 2 up over here instead of 3, stuff like that. It's a relatively easy, I say with multiple hundreds of hours, maybe thousands of hours of experience, but it's a relatively easy thing to deduct when you do checkups like this. But having that said, the more you can check yourself, the better, of course. What is the saying they use in like building or carpentry or whatever? Measure thrice, check one or cut once, something like that. Measure twice, cut once, measure again. I don't know, something like that. You know what I mean. Ooh. This should be yellow wool. I was a little bit too fast. A little bit too eager. Usually I also rank them from darkest to lightest, but you know, sometimes you can mess up. Now, this is going to be an interesting part, because I don't have an immediate reference of how many this needs to be. Also, if I stop making mistakes, that would be nice. But this is 4, then it is 2 up until the next one, and then it is another one. Let me bring up the image real quick again. You can maybe not necessarily count how long this is supposed to be, but you can count the area that is over here. You can count the different shaded colors. So you can relatively easy count to 4 with these shaded colors. Then you can see that there's 2 on top in the darker pink. Then there's 1 and another 1, and that should line up with the top over here. So you know, those little kinds of tips over here as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the top of the darkest color. And then there's 1 on top of that. And then you can see that it's a 2. It's another 2. and that should line up perfectly. Once again, obviously, I've been doing this for multiple years. It might not be as easy for you to see as it might be for me, but obviously, to each their own. It has taken me plenty of time to figure all of this stuff out myself, so, you know, don't worry about it. Try to learn from some tips, and especially try to learn from your own mistakes, and then everything should be alright. Now, we're slowly getting closer to where we should be. Also, I haven't done any checks from this part. It's not that big of a deal, as I've done the check before over here. Stuff should be alright, and it should all fit. But as I say, it should. You never know for sure until it actually does. But let me see over here. This is a little bit of a long shot, but I can think I see 1, 2, 3. Now, usually I am relatively good at estimating distances, but I'm not entirely sure, so I'm going all the way back down here and do something that is hopefully a little bit easier. I highly doubt it though, because this is 1, 2, 3. Then the eye itself should be 4, so that should be an added 4. And then it should be another one on top to finish this one. And this should be 1, 2. And then I expect this to be a 3, which it looks like it is. And that should then also line up. I am not entirely done with the obsidian yet, so I will keep it in my inventory. But otherwise, if you would be done, if you yourself are going for the eyes and the nose first, even though it is a build-along, you can obviously do that first and then change the obsidian out for something else. Just have a free slot, maybe keep that one for grass instead if you mess up. But the coloring in should be, most of the times, easier than an outline. Generally speaking, coloring in is one of the faster things that I do. Oftentimes, I also choose to do coloring in with an outline as well. What that means, it might confuse you, but what it means is I would basically make like an outline over here, and then I would know that everything on this side, let me actually do this properly. I would know that everything on the outside over here would be the darker color. So let me quickly set this up so I can properly show you guys. I would do something like this. Over here, I will also do all of these tiny little things over here. Alright. I will not do the little bits right over there yet, but as you can see, all of this is still grass, but I know that all of that just has to be the yellow terracotta. So this greatly improves the speed that I can color this stuff in. I don't know if it really saves time overall, but it's the small little things that if it does save time, because you can literally just spam right through it, then, you know, it's the little things that add up, especially in larger builds. And once again, obviously, if I'm going too fast, also let me know in the comments if I go too fast, because I can definitely see that happening. Especially with coloring in. But you can either pause this or, you know, the actual coloring in. If you've done one of the two colors, especially in the cones, if you've done one of the colors, the rest just, you know, shows itself. So either you can skip ahead, pause it, make mistakes like I do, or, you know, this is a little bit of the less interesting part, I'd say. But, yeah, you know. It's all in the little things. Like I said, the most difficult things oftentimes is the outline. Generally speaking, coloring in isn't the hardest. Like I said in the beginning, also with choosing the ice cream cone, you can make it as easy or as difficult as you like. Also, like I said in the previous kind of videos, the build-alongs are easy or as hard as you'd like it to be. There are so many different types of, even ice cream cones, I did not have to pick the bear-looking one. I could have picked any kind of ice cream cone. And it would have been perfectly fine, but I chose this one. And I might be going a little bit sporadic, especially over here. So let me just slow down a little bit. I started over here on the left with the darkest pink that I have, the pink concrete. And then you work your way all the way to the right. And then it kind of depends. I switch my ways up every time that I do these. But it kind of depends what you like first. As you can see on the image, there's a little bit of like a chess pattern or checkers pattern going on. So if you like to do that first, obviously, you can do that first, as I did. Or you can just fill in the solid piece, I'd like to say. This entire shlabam. And then do the checkers part. Because you know where it all needs to, connect. That is all a personal preference. Like I said, I change it up every time. Every single time that I do it, I go for the other way of doing it. But yeah, it doesn't matter too much. Now, as I am over here, I finished the pink concrete that I need. I finished the darker pink. While I'm still over here, I could fly over and continue all of the pink concrete. Or I could be more efficient, grab the pink wool and fill this part in immediately. That means that I don't have to look back here anymore at all, and it just saves a little bit of time. Now, I could continue coloring in this little part over here, which you know what I'm actually going to do. Grab yourself some nice pink concrete powder and fill in this little section. And back to the wool, fill in the rest, and then we're going to back over to the pink concrete on the top right hand side. Now, these diagonals, I don't really, once again, have a preference in the way of doing them, but I'm pretty sure there are some techniques to do them faster. I would say, generally speaking, if you do a little bit over here and then just smash the diagonal down, that is a little bit better. Especially if you don't necessarily know how many of these it is going to need to be, because otherwise you wouldn't have to need to count all of these, or keep in mind that you don't have to do the outermost one. But I would say, generally speaking, try to do solid parts first, and if you can connect the diagonal to that, do that instead of counting the diagonals separately. If you really want to keep all of the detail set, especially in bigger builds, you can obviously count it, but you can save yourself so much time by not having to do that. Now over here it is 2 3s and another 1 and then another diagonal that just connects to it. I can obviously see that it's 3 of them, but why bother counting if you don't have to? Then we go back to the pink wool, wrap our way around it. And once again make a little bit of an outline, and that way you can fill all of this in with a nice pink wool. Once again, it probably does not save that much time, but every little bit counts. Also, there isn't really a reason why I'm building this in the ground, by the way. That just popped in my mind. You can make these things in the ground, you can obviously make these things standing up as well. It doesn't really matter. And the only thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you want to try to build and color something in with the concrete powder and stuff like that, or sand, or anything with gravity, if you're doing it standing up and you try to color in, for instance, because I will be using the pink concrete powder for mainly the face, if I don't have anything below it, it'll fall down. So in that way, if you're using a lot of blocks that have gravity, laying it in the ground is obviously better. You can also put it on top of the ground instead of inside of the ground if you prefer that. I personally prefer the slickness of it being in the ground better. But, you know, that's a style choice that you can choose for yourself, of course. So I've done a little bit of the pink on the top right-hand side of the ear of the bear. Now I could continue the pink down here, but I have decided that I wanted to do the eye part. The eye part is relatively simple. It's 2 by 4. So that is eye number 1. And I am going to leave it there because I don't necessarily have a nice reference piece for the mouth. I can obviously go from the tongue over here, but I'm not ready for the tongue yet. It's pink wool time, baby. This also once again diagonally contacts the eye, which is a little test as well. Because this has to connect to the second block from the bottom of the eye. If this would not connect, something could be wrong. Obviously we have had plenty of checks while coloring in. And the outline is already matching. But of course on the inside we don't necessarily know for sure that we've not messed any of the coloring up. It is easier to keep an eye out for the coloring if you mess it up, but it's still a thing to be aware of. You can make mistakes, you will make mistakes. I have made them in the past, once again just like that. And it's, you know, very easy to just say like, oh, it should be alright. Oh, it is perfectly fine. I don't have to look at it again. It should match because the outline matches. I have had plenty of times where the outline matches, but the inside doesn't. So, you know, as a quick little heads up, not necessarily a warning, but a quick little heads up. I also know that the pink concrete powder and the pink wool doesn't necessarily have the most change in color. However, I still think that the pink concrete powder is the most pink that I'm going to get. And if I choose anything else than the pink wool, you know, I'm doing a disservice of the pinkness of the build. But that's a me thing. I've also gone for white concrete powder. I don't necessarily need to go for white concrete powder because it's not, you know, perfectly white. It's still a little bit of a pinkish tone. But I am almost 100% sure that there is nothing in Minecraft that has the exact color that I need for this part. Obviously, if you do think that there were better colors that I could have been using, let me know in the comments. There is always, obviously, like I've said before, a change in taste of people, of the colors that they'd like to use, of colors that they, you know, just like in general. But there is the small things to keep in mind, is that everyone is a little bit different. I, like I said, also tried to keep textures in mind, even though it doesn't matter at all. I could have went with all concrete, I could have went with all terracotta, but I like to put that extra little bit of a challenge on myself when it comes to building these things. While we're here doing the white concrete powder anyway, let's just do that little piece and be done with it. And while we're at it, I am actually going to grab some snow for the mouth, because the mouth is more white than the white concrete powder that I'm using, because that had to be a little bit more of a pinkish. So I'm grabbing some snow. It is quite a bit more white. It still has a little bit of texture if you really look at it. I think they changed it a little bit so it's more dense. But yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say about it. I really love how snow looks, especially the whiteness of it. It's just so vibrant. I don't know. It's yeah, I just like it, I guess. Looking at the tongue, it needs to be here. How do I know? This goes next to the tongue and it ends at this bright piece over here. It needs one line of white below it. And then I am going to grab... Do I need a separate color for this? That is a good one. You know, I'm just taking you along into this color selection phase. The pink concrete probably should do its job, even though I've used it for a different shade of pink before. But yeah, I don't think... Actually, maybe pink terracotta will do it for the tongue. It's not the perfect shade that I need. It could have been a little bit brighter, but it does what it needs to do. And I believe personally that this pink terracotta is also more of a tongue color, if that makes sense. I obviously hope it makes sense, but you know, I could be completely wrong. Once again, let me know in the comments if you think I am. But yeah, I try not to be the biggest imposter there is. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one diagonal should line up with the T section over here, which it does. And now I know that I can color everything of the mouth in with the snow. It's always these small little things to keep you checked up during these builds. I probably do them subconscious most of the time, so once again, I apologize if I obviously miss out on some of these that I do. But, you know, I hope there is still some of you following along. Once again, if you don't, if I go too fast, let me know in the comments. I'll try to keep it in mind for the next build along. But also feel free to go back again. Rewind the video. Rewind the video multiple times. See what in the world is this guy doing. Feel free to do so. Again, like I said, there's plenty of times that I had to rewind videos to see like how in the world did they do this back in the day. There is also plenty of times I had to redo complete works because I messed up somewhere and I had no idea. I just could not find the mistake. So there's absolutely no shame in taking some extra time. There is absolutely no shame in, you know, messing up once or twice, 10 times, 50 times. It is all work in progress. And having that said, this is also not the most easy build because it has quite a few different shades of the coloring. If you look at the other little build-alongs that I've done, the Mario Kart one is obviously a lot easier. The Pickle Rick, I'd say, is also a lot easier. I don't quite remember the build, but I think it's a little bit getting there when it comes to color choices. It's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, this, when it comes to like 4 shades of pink at least, it's not the easiest. So, you know, if you're following along as far as you have already, that is already more than an accomplishment on its own. Even when just watching this, you know, I can believe that my commentary might not be the most amazing. As this is one of the few times that I'm obviously doing a build along so far. So I hope that obviously in the future, if I do more of these, that the quality will improve. Because that is obviously the goal. And maybe you guys can improve along with me, you know? It would be great to also just see the stuff that you guys have built. Maybe this sparks an interest in doing pixel art. Maybe not even just in Minecraft, maybe in general. Because pixel art in general is absolutely amazing. I do love the art style, and especially like pixel art animation and stuff like that. It is absolutely gorgeous. However, this does mean that we are almost at the end of the build, because this is the little cherry. Like I said, with the cherry on top. I'm actually not going to use pink concrete for this, because it seems a little bit too dark. It does color match when it comes to the outline of the build, but it looks a little bit too dark for me. I want it to be a little bit brighter if that is possible. I think I'm just going for pink concrete powder over here again. Pink wool. Maybe something smooth, but I don't think that there is anything smooth that is going to fill up the hole that I'll be needing. Alright, I'll keep it very smooth. I'll keep it with the pink concrete and snow instead of white concrete. So that is going to be the cherry for me. That should be the entire ice cream cone. And yeah, and then I hope that you enjoyed this little build along. It's not necessarily a tutorial, even though you got a little bit of a insight in how I collect my or how I select my colors. So that's it. That is the entire build. Hopefully, even from this still image, you can see that it looks good. I hope that you learned a little bit. Let me put the reference image right next to it to see how good or bad that I did. Let me know if you think it looks good in the comments. Let me know if you think it looks bad in the comments. Watch it back if you need to. I had a lot of fun building this again. It has been a long time since I made some pixel art, so it's always good to get back into the scene. That's pretty much all that I have for you today. The Ice Bear Snow Cone. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you soon. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, dudes.